All right, welcome to Unit 10, Enrichment Day 1. So this is for those that have passed Quiz 1 and are ready to move on to the next set of material. Your goal today is going to be to find the missing part of a perfect square trinomial. So just a reminder, remember perfect squares are the numbers 1, 4, 9, 16, oops, I missed one, 25, and these are perfect squares, remember, because they are numbers that are going to be multiplied to get that number. So like 1 is 1 times 1, 4 is 2 times 2, and 9 is 3 times 3. So it's a number that is multiplied by itself to get that number. All right, we're going to start with a little bit of review. I would say of the quiz, of the people that passed, people still made some mistakes on these ones. So we're going to start with just solving by square rooting. So we're going to square root both sides. You should be writing these examples down on your note sheet so that when you do the practice problems you can get them. So I'm going to write the equation out twice because I know the square root of 100 is either 10 or negative 10. And again, to solve it, I'm just going to minus 6 from both sides. One answer is 4. You have to be careful on the other one because the answer is not negative 4, it's actually negative 16, because negative 10 minus 6 is negative 16. All right, let's go ahead and try the next one. Square root both sides. I'm going to write the equation out twice. X minus 3 equals x minus 3 equals. All right, the square root of 64 is either 8 or negative 8. To get rid of a minus 3, I add 3 to both sides, so I get 11 and negative 5. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try the last one on your own now. I think a lot of you got this down. Remember to write the equation out twice, so I'm going to square root both sides. I'm going to write the equation out twice. X plus 8 could equal, x plus 8 could equal. The square root of 9 is 3 or negative 3. To get rid of the 8, I minus it. So one answer is negative 5. And negative 3 minus 8 is negative 11. All right, now we're going to move on to some new material. So make sure you pay attention, and if you need to, rewind the video as needed. So we are going to talk about what a perfect square trinomial is. So first, I'm going to start off by reminding you of one thing. We did the box last semester. And remember, if I gave you something like this, you would write x plus 10 on one side of the box, x plus 10 on the other side, because squared just means doing the same thing twice. So I get x squared, 10x, 10x, and 100. All right, so my final thing would be x squared plus, I can add these together, plus 20x. Plus 100. So what I'm asking you to do is to tell me what the original perfect square is and tell me what completes it to make it a perfect square. So if we notice, 10 plus 10 is 20, 10 times 10 is 100. So here's the pattern. We divide by 2, so 20 divided in half is 10, and then we square the number, so 10 squared means 10 times 10, which gives me 100, and that's going to match what I just did down below. So if you want to write the steps down, you divide the middle number by 2, then square. Okay, and square just means multiply it by itself. All right, so let's try that with the next one. Negative 18 divided by 2 is 9. And 9 squared, which really just means 9 times 9, is 81. 16 divided by 2 is going to give me 8. So we get, and then notice that I already filled in the other parts for you. So this one, it's always going to start with x, and you get the sign by looking at that middle sign there, so it's plus. So it's going to be x plus 8, and then 8 squared is 64. So you always go in that same order, half and then square. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and try these 3 on your own. All right, half of negative 10 is negative 5, so I'm going to write x minus 5. And 5 squared, which really just means 5 times 5, is 25. All right, next one, half of 12, or 12 divided by 2 is 6. And it's a positive, so we're going to write x plus 6. And 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. All right, the next one you need a bit of a calculator for. Half of negative 5 is 2.5. All right, but 2.5 squared, I don't know off the top of my head, so it's just 2.5 times 2.5, which is 6.25. All right, now this is important because what we're going to be moving into is combining what we did at the beginning with what we just learned, all right? So we're going to do 2 full problems by solving by completing the square. So we're combining our solving that we just did with what we just learned of dividing by 2 and squaring. So it's the same pattern. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 10 squared is 100. That's what we just did. But what we know about equations is whatever I add to one side, I have to add to the other to keep it balanced, all right? So if I add 100 here, I also need to add 100 there. Oh, excuse me. All right. Now what we have to do is we got to combine our sides together here. This top part, this is the same as this, so I don't need to do anything with it. This right here, we're going to add together to get this. So negative 75 plus 100 is 25. And this type of problem that we're at now is exactly what we just practiced solving, so we square root both sides. If you remember, we have to write the equation out twice. The square root of 25 is 5 or negative 5. And it's just like what we did before. We solve those two, we get 15. If I solve this one, I get 5. All right, so we're combining what we just learned with what we did last week to make sure that we can solve completely. So if it's not set up for you, you need to put plus blank on either side and parentheses squared. That's really the only setup you need to do. All right, so half of positive 6 is x plus 3. 3 squared is 9. If I add 9 here, I have to add 9 here. And then I'm combining these two. So 16 plus 9 is 25. And now I'm going to solve the same way I did before by square rooting both sides. Remember, just like before, I write the equation out twice. All right, it could equal 5 or it could equal negative 5. And I minus 3 from both sides. I get 2 for one answer. Negative 5 minus negative 3 gives me, wow, that is the ugliest 8 I've ever seen. My apologies. Gives me negative 8. All right. So if you need to rewind to rewatch those, please do so. Please make sure you complete the practice problems on the back side of the sheet. Make sure worksheet 1 and 2 are done from last week because I will be checking those off. And then you can complete the Unit 10 extension quiz on Google Classroom once all of that is done. All right, please let me know if you have questions. Have a good day.